Okay, so part 5 of our Defender clone, and you know what? I'm not liking that blue player spaceship. Well, this thing's just gonna annoy me. It doesn't matter what color I make it. Uh, oh well. Yeah. Yeah, part 5, enemies. So we're gonna spawn some enemies and get them going. And one thing I have decided, though, is that I'm not gonna start the player in the middle of the screen after all. I'm gonna start him over here. There we go. So I want to go ahead and spawn some enemies. So let me save my scene. Alright, so we're going to need a couple things, one of which is going to be an enemy. So I'll come down here to my spaceships, and we have this spaceship 2, right? Where is it? This one? Interesting. So we have this spaceship 2, which is going to become my enemy. So if we were to kind of take a look at this guy, here he is. Alright, so there's going to be the enemy. Nice. So I'm going to go ahead and pull ship 2, drop it out here into my scene. Ship 2 is so big, it is cool. So let's do kind of repeat some of the stuff that we did back with the player ship. And you are too big. I'm going to go ahead and scale it down some right now to begin with. Maybe about like so. What is that, 0.09? Try to go consistent across the board there. Okay, let's rotate this guy. What do you think? Let's rotate him. What is that? So I'm going to rotate 90 degrees like so. And then, what do you think? 90 degrees like so. What do you think? How's that look? Oh, do we want it rotated? What would this one be? Where's that? Right there. Negative 270. Let's see. Negative 270. Negative 90. What do we think about that one? We're at a 6 of one, half dozen of another. I'm going to kind of put it back to about like that. Yeah, I'm going to leave it like so. I think it probably should be the other way, but this is the way I'm going to do it. So this is not ship 2. This is going to be enemy ship, like so. Let's see if we can do some tweaks to this guy really quick. Just drop into his shader here, and I'm just going to see, can we like overlay a red on it? Not really easily. That's okay. We're going to go and change some colors on this thing. Not a big deal. We'll fix that. We'll do a Photoshop fix on that. Maybe in a little while. Not yet. Okay, so we're going to leave our ship like that. That's our bad guy ship. He looks a little bit too big. I'm going to drop him down to 0.08, 0.08, and a 0.08. Okay, I like that better. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add a component to this thing. And this component is going to be a playmaker, and it's going to be a playmaker state machine. And I am going to call this state machine movement. Okay, this is going to handle the bad guy's movement at the moment. And we need to rotate that thing. Negative 270 and negative 90. Like so. Oh, that's positive 270. I got you. There we go. That sounded weird. And the reason I wanted to rotate that was because with that fin going down below it, it felt weird to me for some reason. So yeah, I want to rotate it so it's like that. And there we go. So let's make some movement here. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this component. And my movement is going to do a couple of things. I'm going to have an event. I'm going to have a add state, and this state is going to be delete me. Basically, from the get-go, we're going to apply some stuff that we already know from other things that we've done. I'm going to have an event, and this event is going to be crossed boundary. So for instance, once my bad guy leaves the game, he dies. He gets deleted. So cross boundary is going to connect to delete me, and my delete me is going to use a destroy self. There we go. Alright, so inside my state here, I'm going to call this move. And for the moment, I'm just going to move really simplistically. So we're just going to do an action browse. We're going to do a translate, if I can spell correctly. There it is, translate. We're going to translate on the Y, or I'm sorry, on the X, at a variable that we're going to call speed for the moment. Every frame, this is going to be world space, not self space. And we're going to add an action browser, trigger event, and this is going to be on trigger exit with a boundary, and you will send the crossed boundary. There we go. Alright, so we've got all of those. Now it's telling us we need a rigid body and a collider. No problem, we're going to put those on right now. So here's what we're going to do. Let's get rid of our actions. So I'm going to go ahead and do an add component, physics, rigid body, and do like we did before. I'm not going to use gravity. I'm going to constrain all of these things. I'm going to do an add component, physics, box collider. This is going to be a trigger, and I need to get my collider to basically go around this thing. Right now it's not, so let's see if we can figure out. There it is. So it's getting bigger, bigger, bigger. Now here's our scale, so you can see that this thing has to go, like way, way up for us to really be able to. Let's go to 3D. So there we go. So we can start to see our box collider. Okay. Let's bring it back in and make our Y. So what is this? 10, 9, 9.5 looks pretty good. 9.5 and a 9.5. What do you think? And yeah, we're pretty much covering our ship. These from the sides, this kind of view, the player's never going to see. They're going to see this view. So let's go back to a 2D view right here. And yeah, I'm going to call that pretty good. I like that. And it's set as a trigger. We're good to go. So let's see what happens here. Zoom out. I have not given my bad guy a speed yet. I've also not made that variable inspector. I don't know why I can never seem to remember to do that. Variable speed inspector. There we go. And it is going to have a speed of negative 3. There we go. That's going to be its speed. And I just want to make sure that it destroys itself when it leaves the boundary. And we know it's going to. And there it went. All gone. Okay. We're good. Our basic bad guy is all set up. So let's go ahead and continue applying what we already know from our lasers and some other stuff that we've done. So I'm going to create a prefab out of this, bring it down here to prefabs, like so. I'm going to go ahead and get him out of my scene. Then out here somewhere, I'm going to create something that's going to be a spawn point. So I'm going to go game object, 3D object, cube, and let's put it, like what, right about there, perhaps. Let's make sure it's not outside the boundary, because if it's outside the boundary, that, well, actually, that won't matter because it hasn't exited yet. But that looks like a good spot anyhow. Okay, now, we're going to call this cube enemy spawner. Okay, we're not going to tag it. It does not need a box collider, and it does not need a mesh renderer. Doesn't need to be visible, doesn't need to collide with anything. So let's go ahead, add component, and we're going to add a playmaker, FSM. This is going to be a spawn So let's spawn some enemies. And once again, just using stuff that we've already done. So we're going to start off, I'm going to start off, this state is going to be called wait. I'm going to start off with a delay. So this state is called wait, and it is going to wait a random wait. So random amount of time. We're going to have to tweak these to really figure out what we like. I'm going to make variables for this. So one is going to be min time, and max is going to be another variable called max time real time. Before I forget, we're going to go to variables, make both of them inspectors like so. Go back to state. Let's create a custom event, and this custom event is going to be ready to spawn. So we'll go back to state. Finish event is going to be ready to spawn like so. Add transition, ready to spawn. Add state. We're going to do a spawn. Okay, now this state is now going to become our start state. So I kind of wanted to show that we can do that. Ready to spawn goes over here. Once we've spawned something, we have finished, and we're going to go and wait. We're going to go and wait. There we go. All right, so let's spawn something. We're going to go action browser, create object, and we're going to need to create a object that I'm going to call enemy, and a spawn point that I really want to use like self. I'm going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call this spawn point, and we're going to spawn it. Boom, 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 done. Okay, so let's go over here to our variables. Spawn point is in the inspector. Enemy is in the inspector. So our state machine is ready to go. Let's move that off screen. Cube right up here. I thought I changed you. You are enemy spawner. All right, cool. And enemy is enemy. Spawn point is enemy spawner. Min time, I'm going to go with like 1.5. Max time, I'm going to go with like 5, and just kind of try that out. And let's see what happens. Let's see if we're spawning enemies, if they're flying across the screen, and if they kill themselves. Okay, so there's an enemy, but notice they're kind of, not really facing the way that we want them to, right? So what we need to do is we're going to have to, a couple of things that we can do. The easiest, though, is going to be simply go look at our enemy ship. These values right here, I'm just going to copy them up here to my enemy spawner. Negative 270, this I think was 180, negative 270, and basically all I'm doing is making them so that they're oriented in the same direction. And that last one was positive 270. And there's some other things I can do with this as well, but this is going to be like the easiest solution. And there goes my bad guy. He got spawned. He's going to come over here. Here comes another bad guy. Disappears and disappears. Okay, so we're spawning bad guys. Next thing though is I want it to spawn over here, but I want it to be a random Y position from down here to up here. Now we can figure this out pretty straightforward. The easiest way to figure this out, if we don't remember, is to actually going to be to go to our player ship, and let's look at his vertical movement, his up and down movement. And so the up position was 4.65, 4.6 I'll call it, and the down position was negative 3.7. So there's our 2 points. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to our enemy spawner, and actually not our enemy spawner. We're going to go to our enemy ship itself. And so whenever the enemy spawner spawns a ship, we're going to have this enemy ship, once it gets spawned, pick a random Y position and go there. So let's go ahead, enemy ship, bring up its state machine here, move you a little bit closer, and let's create a new state, add state, and this new state is going to be initialize, like so. This state is going to be our new start state. Right click, set as start state. Once it's done initializing, it's going to go to move, and what it's going to do inside here is, let's see, a random float. There it is. And we said the minimum was negative 3.7. The positive was 4.6 is what we said. We're going to store that in a variable that we're going to call POSY. Notice I'm even using the same variable name. So all of this is just kind of being reused, all of these concepts over and over. And then let's go with a set position. And this should look like the exact same as what we did for our random jump. Yeah, it pretty much is. It's really close. So we're going to do a Y, position Y, make sure you're setting it to world. We're finished, go over there. All right, let's see what our bad guys do this time. We should start spawning in random positions. So that one's there. That one's there. They don't seem to be moving the way that I want them to. Oh, that one did. That one's way down there. There's one. There's one. So now they're liking it down here, huh? Okay, there's one back in the middle. All right, well, anyway, there you go. Random spawning. Got that working. So our next challenge is going to be to destroy the enemy, and we're going to do that in our next video. That'll be a pretty short video, not too difficult to do that. Yeah, so we've got our enemy spawning. Hey, we're making good progress on this. All right, so any questions, just drop them down below.